You replaced the crankshaft position sensor. The engine still won't start. The same trouble code comes back. Or maybe the stalling problem never went away. At this point, many drivers assume the new sensor must be defective. But in many cases, the sensor isn't the real problem at all. A crankshaft position sensor can only do its job if the rest of the system is working correctly. Damaged wiring, poor connections, missing relearn procedures, and other hidden issues can make a brand new sensor appear faulty. In this video, we'll cover 5 common reasons a new crankshaft position sensor still won't fix the problem, and what you should check before replacing another sensor. Number 1. Damaged wiring harness. One of the most common reasons a new crankshaft position sensor doesn't solve the problem is damaged wiring. Imagine replacing the sensor, clearing the trouble code, and starting the engine, only to see the same symptoms return. At that point, it's easy to blame the new sensor, but the real problem may be somewhere between the sensor and the engine computer. The crankshaft position sensor sends a signal through the wiring harness to the ECU. If that signal is interrupted, weakened, or distorted, the ECU may not receive accurate crankshaft position information, even if the sensor itself is brand new. Over time, wiring can become damaged from heat, vibration, rubbing against engine components, or exposure to oil and moisture. In some cases, the damage is hidden inside the insulation and cannot be seen from the outside. As a result, the engine may still crank without starting, stall unexpectedly, set crankshaft sensor trouble codes, or run poorly despite the new sensor. A good first step is to carefully inspect the wiring between the sensor and the ECU. Look for broken insulation, crushed sections, corrosion, or signs that the harness has been rubbing against metal components. The sensor may be new, but if the signal can't reach the ECU properly, the problem will remain. And even when the wiring is in good condition, another common issue can still make a new crankshaft sensor appear faulty. Number 2. Bad connector. Even if the wiring harness is in good condition, the connection itself may still be causing the problem. A crankshaft position sensor relies on a clean and reliable electrical connection to send its signal to the ECU. If the connector is damaged, loose, or corroded, that signal may never reach the computer correctly. This often happens after years of exposure to heat, moisture, dirt, and engine vibrations. In some cases, the connector may look perfectly normal from the outside, while the terminals inside are corroded or no longer making proper contact. It's also possible for connector problems to appear during a sensor replacement. A terminal can become bent, pushed back, or damaged while disconnecting or reconnecting the plug. When this happens, the symptoms can look exactly like a failed crankshaft position sensor. The engine may crank but not start, stall unexpectedly, trigger the same trouble code, or continue running poorly even after the new sensor has been installed. Before assuming the replacement sensor is defective, inspect the connector carefully. Look for corrosion, damaged terminals, loose pins, oil contamination, or signs of overheating. A small connection problem can completely interrupt the sensor signal. The sensor may be working perfectly, but without a reliable connection, the ECU has no way of receiving accurate crankshaft position information. And surprisingly, even with a good sensor, good wiring, and a good connector, the problem may still continue if the wrong sensor was installed in the first place. Number 3. Wrong sensor installed. The wiring looks good. The connector is clean. A brand new crankshaft position sensor has been installed, yet the engine still won't start, continues to stall, or keeps setting the same trouble code. At this point, many people begin to suspect that the replacement sensor is defective. While that can happen, there's another possibility that's often overlooked. The wrong sensor may have been installed. This is more common than many people realize. Some crankshaft position sensors look nearly identical, use the same style connector, and appear to fit perfectly into the engine. However, that doesn't always mean they are the correct sensor for the vehicle. The sensor may look right and fit perfectly, but if it's the wrong sensor, the ECU may never receive the signal it expects, and the original problem will remain. Even a small difference in design, signal output, or internal electronics can prevent the ECU from receiving the information it expects. As a result, the engine may continue to experience the same symptoms even though the sensor has been replaced. Problems can also occur when the wrong part number is ordered. Even though the sensor may look identical and fit perfectly, it may not produce the signal characteristics that the ECU expects. In some cases, this can make the problem even more difficult to diagnose. That's why it's important to verify the part number and make sure the replacement sensor matches the vehicle's exact specifications. Whenever possible, compare the new sensor to the original one and use a trusted, high-quality replacement part. A new sensor isn't always the right sensor, and installing the wrong one can leave you chasing the same problem over and over again. But surprisingly, even when the correct sensor has been installed and everything appears to be working properly, some vehicles may still continue to run poorly until one critical step has been completed. Number 4. Crankshaft Relearn not performed. A new crankshaft position sensor can be installed correctly and still cause the same problems. Why? Because some vehicles require a crankshaft relearn procedure after the sensor is replaced. Without this relearn, the ECU may not correctly recognize the new sensor signal. As a result, the engine may continue to run poorly, stall unexpectedly, or trigger the same trouble codes, even though the sensor itself is working properly. The sensor may be working properly, but without a relearn procedure, the ECU may not know how to correctly interpret the new signal. Many drivers replace the sensor, clear the code, and assume the repair is complete. But on certain vehicles, a relearn procedure is required before the ECU can accurately use the new crankshaft position data. If the symptoms started immediately after replacing the sensor, it's worth checking whether your vehicle requires a crankshaft relearn. A successful sensor replacement doesn't always end with installing the new part. Sometimes the ECU must also learn how to recognize the new sensor before the problem is truly fixed. And if the relearn has already been performed, there's still one hidden mechanical problem that many people overlook. Number 5. Damaged reluctor ring. Even after replacing the crankshaft position sensor, some problems may still remain because there's another important component that is often overlooked: the reluctor ring. Many people replace the crankshaft position sensor without realizing that the sensor doesn't create the signal by itself. It simply reads the reluctor ring as it rotates with the engine. If the reluctor ring becomes damaged, bent, cracked, excessively worn, or loses one of its teeth, the sensor may receive incorrect information no matter how new the sensor is. In some cases, the sensor is working perfectly, but it's reading a damaged target. As a result, the ECU may receive an inaccurate crankshaft position signal and continue to set trouble codes, cause hard starting, create misfires, or even prevent the engine from starting altogether. Because the reluctor ring is often hidden inside the engine, it can easily be overlooked during diagnosis. Many people replace the sensor first, only to discover later that the real problem was the component the sensor was reading all along. That's why it's important to remember that replacing the sensor only solves the problem if the sensor is receiving accurate information in the first place. Before replacing another crankshaft position sensor, make sure the reluctor ring has been inspected as well. Diagnostic Summary. If a new crankshaft position sensor didn't solve the problem, don't assume the replacement sensor is defective. Before replacing another sensor, make sure you've checked the most common causes that can make a new sensor appear faulty. Start by inspecting the wiring harness for damage, corrosion, or broken wires. Next, check the connector for loose terminals, corrosion, or poor electrical contact. Verify that the correct sensor was installed and that the part number matches your vehicle's specifications. If your vehicle requires a crankshaft relearn procedure, make sure it has been completed. And finally, don't overlook the reluctor ring, since a damaged reluctor ring can cause the same symptoms as a faulty sensor. Taking a few extra minutes to diagnose the entire system can save time, money, and unnecessary parts replacement. A new crankshaft position sensor doesn't automatically mean the problem is solved. In many cases, the real issue may be damaged wiring, a faulty connector, the wrong replacement sensor, a missing Relearn procedure, or even a damaged Reluctor ring. That's why replacing parts without proper diagnosis can quickly become expensive and frustrating. Before replacing another sensor, take the time to inspect the entire system. A crankshaft position sensor can only provide accurate information if everything around it is working correctly. The most important thing to remember is this: a new sensor isn't always the solution. Sometimes, the real problem is the reason the new sensor appears to fail in the first place. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to hit the like button, leave a comment below, and subscribe to the channel for more automotive diagnostics and troubleshooting videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.